Welcome to yet another episode. That's 2 this weekend. This must be 15, of School of Hard Thoughts podcast. Is it 14?
Yeah.
I'm Green and I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Let me bring in somebody who knows very well what's going on today.
Welcome to the show. I'm Adrian Davis. As always, we're coming to you from famous Sam's at Golf Links in Kolb, 7129 East Golf Links Road. The best place I've been to, at least in this area, actually anywhere, and I've been some places, to watch sports, especially football. They've got the Sunday ticket, they've got the MLB package, they've got all the U of A games, anything you could desire, and they will find it for you.
I've seen professional curling on the TVs here.
Do they still make that like amazing pastrami sandwich here?
That is actually their specialty. Yeah, they have pastrami is actually their pastrami was such a big thing that it used to be their Wi-Fi cipher. Pastrami is good.
So I did this thing where I wound up having kids and I stopped being able to eat out ever. So.
And who is this extra voice? We have this wonderful melodious tone piping in over here. Who are we talking to today?
This is Aaron Haworth. I was about to say Haworth.
Haworth.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Aaron Haworth, who I was going to introduce in a different way, but we had a pre-show conversation. So he's just an interesting fellow, and I think you'll want to get to know him. Welcome to the show, Aaron.
Hey, thanks.
So we start these things off the same way, just a basic. Who's Aaron?
Who's Aaron?
Well, let's see. I'm an old man, and
he says to the man who's probably older than me.
I think I drove out here to West Vale from the northwest side of town. So thanks for being on the east side, you guys.
West Vale. I love that.
Yeah,
Hey, Steve Shives came all the way from Maryland last night. No, we Skyped. Sorry.
That's pretty. Oh, yeah. Wait, you had a conversation with Steve Shives?
Yeah.
No, I love that guy. He's pretty interesting.
Yeah, he's cool.
Fascinating dude. I'd love to. I wish I could have participated in that. Anyway, yeah. So let's see. Do you tell people demographics? Like I'm 46 years old.
Whatever you want to do. It's open
You don't
doors
look
there.
you don't look a day over 44.
Sure. Right. Yeah. Haggard life. So I'm a former firefighter. I guess people like to say that we're retired, but I don't really have one of those little mini packages. I didn't work for a place that had a
I worked for that same organization. I understand what you're talking about.
Right. So, I basically just hit a point where I was at 20 years and thought, I don't want to do this shit anymore. About 4 years ago, I started making furniture, more out of necessity for my own home, because again, didn't have a lot of money, so I thought I could make furniture. And turns out, I was all right at it. And then now I have a full-time business where I build furniture.
Excellent.
By myself.
Glad to hear that.
So that's where I'm at now. That's a little bit about me. And then, yeah.
Yeah, so that was the curveball. I know Aaron from a couple places. One from we worked for the same company for a while. I worked in the not so glamorous end of it, transporting people back and forth from I was.
We all. That's our. Yeah,
I called it vegetable transport because you get these people who their families are like, well, he's still breathing, he's still alive, and they're like a vegetable, and then they catch pneumonia, and you have to take them from their nursing home to
Well, yeah,
so I did a lot of that.
But to demystify it, really, even though I could say I was a firefighter, I was paramedic firefighter, so I spent almost all my time in the same bomb box doing the same transports. The only real difference is I just had to shoot the fire crews out of the way so I could actually get the transport over here.
I actually had to do that a few times too, working at Northwest Contract, which was not fun. But so you have an interesting path. You started in the Navy.
I did. Yeah, I was in the submarine service for 6 years. In the early '90s, basically tail end of the Cold War. And here we are. We're back.
Yeah. So I was about to say. No, I think actually we're being controlled by it, but that's a
things change, things stay the same. That's par for the course in this timeline from what I've sussed out so far. So,
well, I guess this is like phase 4 of Glasnost, and that's.
Yeah, but no, honestly, submarines.
Yes, sir.
What was your longest time on a submarine at one stint?
89 days. 89 days didn't see the light of day. We manufacture our own air like being on a space station, except we couldn't like look down and see the cooler Earth.
And it's all dudes.
All dudes. Yeah.
All dudes all the time.
All dudes all
day,
the time.
all the time.
And unfortunately, the space station is a lot like that, but without the whole. I wonder how many times we think like, oh, how cool it must be to work on the space station, but like, using the restroom in 0G, I'm sure your guys' head was more or less smaller, but still worked with your basic Earth physics.
Oh yeah, for sure. We still, for the most part, had gravity down there, except
right,
travel through the vortex.
Right. Well, I'm glad you surfaced, and I'm glad you're with us today. 89 days without sunlight is a long time.
So what's Denzel Washington really like?
Yeah.
Because let's face it, Crimson Tide and maybe Hunt for Red October.
Hunt for Red October, that's
are
right.
like the only reference people have to that life. But
so let's do this. Crimson Tide is hands down the most fucking ridiculous movie I've ever seen.
Okay.
Hunt for Red October is wildly entertaining, but profoundly inaccurate. Tom Clancy, reading Hunt for Red October and serving in the submarine service for 6 years made me realize he's probably never seen a submarine.
Which is funny because one of the things. Yeah, one of the things that he is supposedly known for is his, intricate research.
His accuracy.
Right. Which obviously talking to you and I've actually talked to other people who are like, he had no fucking
he had no idea. Like he would talk about stuff. There's one element that he did describe that was pretty accurate, and it was basically like driving a submarine is like painting the windows of your car, black. And then using a road map and a stopwatch and your speedometer to navigate through the city.
Right.
And that really is true because, while we do have, even then we had GPS available, your GPS fix is only something you can take with you temporarily underwater, and then when you're underwater, you're just reliant on, your inertial measure units and stuff like that.
Your previous data.
So ultimately what we did, we had this thing that they called set drift. And set drift was a bubble of probability that grew at a particular given rate per time unit.
Exponentially.
Right, and then you knew that as that bubble grew, you were somewhere within that bubble, and then eventually it would get so big you'd have to come back up and get fixed.
So even nowadays, you guys still gotta stick your head over the bathwater and be like, "Oh shit, this is where we are."
Yeah, honestly. So I follow a few submarine groups on Facebook and stuff. So it's interesting to see the evolution and the technology. Like when I was in, shit, dude, we were still using paper charts.
Wow.
It was a big, this cool ass table, big glass top.
Sure.
And then it had these belt-driven gimbals with a little light bug underneath it, and you tape your paper chart to that.
Right.
With a little light shining through the map.
Sounds like Jules Verne and H.G. Wells type of shit.
And this is as recently as 1997. So that was still state of the art.
They actually showed a little bit of that in the Hunt for Red October when Alec Baldwin's character goes, I know what he's doing.
Right.
And he's like, I need a chart, a chart. And then they kind of put it over that table, and
they were headed for the Laurentian Abyssal.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is
but the most realistic submarine movie out there is Down Periscope. That is absolutely spot on.
That's the comedy.
That is spot on.
Oh well.
The same fucking XO. We seriously were at points where we were going to maroon our XO somewhere.
These things happen.
It's like McHale's Navy underwater.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
The original with Ernest Borgnine.
Yes.
Didn't they remake it with some other
they did it with, I think Steve Martin showed up and did a McHale's Navy reboot back in, I think, 94,
That's right,
95.
I forgot all about that.
Yeah, 94, 95.
Wow.
Steve Martin.
Because the Ernest Borgnine version was dope.
Oh,
I
yeah.
watched that, again, I'm the whole guy, so.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like they were more worried about smuggling stuff and
Right. Right. So yeah, I mean, you want to keep doing some of this stuff because I got other stories.
Well, things have
we can go on forever.
Things have progressed.
That's a good thing about podcasts.
Yeah, they have progressed a little bit since 1997. We're God, how long ago was 97 now? 22 years? Oh my gosh.
You and rudimentary math are having a hard time.
I did actually tail a Typhoon class submarine for 45 days.
Oh wow.
So I have been I have been physically under the hull of a Typhoon class Russian submarine.
Neato.
Only within miles of Petropavlovsk.
So-
That may or may not be true.
We were discussing that, you know, the inaccuracies of you know, film and media depictions. What without the, you know, I hate the question of what's it like,
Right.
but you know,
It's an easy one to answer.
Paint us a picture.
It's almost like, you know, what's your favorite color?
Right.
But there's really no other way to phrase it. What are the differences? What is a day-to-day life like during those 89 days that you're underwater?
Well, first to give you a little bit of a mental word picture of it all. Imagine getting about 15 of the people that you don't hate but don't really like a whole lot, and lock yourself in your bathroom with them.
Sounds like
turn the lights on and off at irregular intervals so you can't really sleep appropriately, and then run out of food. And that's about
Wow.
life on the submarine class. But really, to be honest with you, it's basically about as mundane a job as it gets. Like, you think like, oh, I'm going to join the Navy and live this adventure. And to be honest with you, like, I mean, we could look at that from that standpoint of like, oh, that's terrible. But the fact that it's mundane is part of its exceptional functionality.
Right.
So, if you're familiar with Cold War stuff, when it came to like espionage technology, cryptography, we were neck and neck with the Russians the whole time. Like, and it was almost impossible for us to maintain secrets as far as that stuff went from either party. I mean, even right down to the fact that Toshiba ultimately wound up selling all of our tech to the Russians, you know, because they had been a big hand in building a lot of it.
I didn't know anything about that.
Yeah, there were some substantial setbacks as far as that stuff went. But I'm sorry for any Russian submariners listening to this.
No, it's okay. We.
Well, you know what? Actually, let me preface this.
I'm getting emails from them right now.
Right.
I'm looking.
Let me preface this in the days of Russian hackers. The Russian submariners were probably, you know, like it was a unique environment because even though we were technically enemies, they were probably like we had kind of the utmost respect for each other as sub-sailors. Like, you know, there was no legitimate animosity as far as I went. Like, you know. But
you were doing your job, they were doing their job.
Really, the difference.
Just hoped that the world didn't end.
Right. The difference between like us Americans and Russians was really, it just came down to training and in a sense dedication. We were better trained, we were better equipped as people on the submarine, and because in the United States Navy as a submariner, we got paid a lot more. I probably made almost double what your average sailor made was here.
Right.
Because the pay scales.
The hazard pay
right.
and the fact, yeah.
So the pay was good, the food was good. We always had the best treatment. We pulled into ports, like, you know, it was always like they catered to us. Like,
Yeah.
great. The Russian Navy, not so much. Like, one of the stories I remember from Russian sailors, they would have to pull into ports and go volunteer at farms to pick fruits and vegetables so they could actually have that on boats.
So they were illegal immigrants.
Right. Yes. Right.
Well,
Documented at least.
Well, and from what I can suss out, I've known some different people from some different countries, militaries. When you serve the mistress of science and technology, that's your mistress, and everything else kind of falls by the wayside. But you know, and that kind of what you're saying kind of lends some fuel to that argument that people who are really into science and tech, I mean, you know, hell and high water be damned, that's the facts, that's the logic, and that is what you serve.
Right, for sure.
Because that's what's keeping you alive.
Right.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, a typical day was, we rotated in 6-hour time blocks, but rather than having a 24-hour day separated when you're underway, because now you no longer have anything resembling a circadian lifestyle.
No diurnal, nocturnal.
Your
Right,
biorhythm clock
right.
is screwed.
So we were still on a 24-hour clock, but your work day was rotated around an 18-hour schedule. So you would be on watch for 6 hours, off watch for 12. You know, in that 12 hours off watch, you had occasionally 2-3 hours of maintenance stuff to do. You know, 3 hours of fuck around, whatever, and then about 6 hours you just sleep.
And what was your actual MOS, which is military occupational specialty?
Right.
You don't understand that? What was
Clearly
your
an
job?
Army or Marine guy. That's what you guys call it,
I'm
right?
an Army guy, yeah.
So in the Navy we called it a rate. I was on the submarine it's relatively meaningless. as far as what your actual rate is, you know, because you like go through schools and get this MOS, as you guys call it. Most people understand it as MOS. But then once you hit the submarine, it's kind of like, you know, we're all in this together.
You're going to do what we tell you.
But I was a radioman. As a radioman, what that meant was I was an electronics technician, I was a radio operator, I was a cryptographic technician, and then the bulk of my job was involved in, you know, collecting and processing intel. So we were a spy boat and special projects, you know, units. Well, I was on 2 different submarines. My first one was both a SEAL delivery submarine, so we actually were a very, very specialized purpose, and we also were stacked with a lot of ELINT, or electronics intelligence gathering. So,
I still can't even imagine how that possibly works. How you can, I mean, and I know it's a thing, but it's there are some things in science that you just can't wrap your mind around, and I can't wrap my mind around deploying people out of a watertight thing that's underwater.
Right, right.
But
well, it's pretty impressive, actually, when you see it, you know, from a tech standpoint, especially like even the pressure hull itself. The amount of physical change that it experiences is measurable, you know, like visually, not just. You know.
I think it's something about water, because if you think about an airlock in space, it's like, okay, it makes sense.
Right.
You got 2 doors.
Right.
One door closes, the other door
Light
opens.
pressure.
You got to make sure you're on the other side of the door.
Right,
That first door is open. So it's kind of, I guess I imagine it would be the same type of thing, but then you're dealing with pressures and.
Well,
it
and
freaks
you know,
me out, actually.
at different elevations, you got to be prepared for, you know, different depths rather. You got to be prepared for different PSI per, you know, per square inch and stuff like that. It is a trippy thing to think about when you're thinking about a SEAL deployment. That means that so you're not deploying like SEALs that are.
We were fairly unique.
That aren't prepared for their position. These
Right.
guys have been trained to handle the bends and shit like that. It should decompression occur, you know, so.
So we were, one of the things like this is a common misconception. You know, most people understand deep water stuff from a pressure vessel standpoint, like a bathysphere, where you go underwater and you're pressurizing the bathysphere to equal the sea pressure outside, which is how that thing can survive going down to places like, you know,
Marianas Trench or whatever,
deep, or, you know, like on a military vessel submarine, your pressure hull, the interior the people compartment, as we called it, was always at atmospheric pressure. So that meant that the pressure hull itself was experiencing the entirety of the sea pressure on the outside. And the reason for that is, for example, if we ever had to come to the surface emergently,
you wouldn't explode.
Right. Then we don't go into guys who have to deal with pressure stuff.
Yeah, the nitrogen
I gotta tell you, like,
and,
one of the most insane things is shooting through the surface after you've done bit. We have these 2 big switches in the control room. We call them chicken switches. And when you throw those, it ports the entirety of the 4,500-pound air system into the ballast tanks, and it shoves all that seawater out instantly. And that submarine shoots out of that water like a cork. And
yeah, no shit.
Yeah,
it's pretty impressive.
And of course, that's one of the things they always use in movies to show.
Right. That is accurate. You gotta hold on to something.
No shit.
You know, and we do that a lot to like even test stowage. Like if your shit wasn't put, you know, away right and stuff, and equipment's racked in, like things break real quick.
So,
people.
how long did you do that?
I was in for 6 years. A year and a half of it was just school and training, and then 4.5 years on the boats. Spent a year and a half in Norfolk, Virginia on my first submarine, which was part of an old, long-gone class of submarines called the Sturgeon class. They were all nuclear. The United States Navy hasn't had a diesel submarine since the late 80s. The last of our diesel submarines caught on fire in, I think, 88 or 89. It was USS Bonefish. Killed 3 crewmen.
Yeesh.
Battery department fire. That was part of the problem with those things. So, although, you know, the nuclear submarines are, you know, they pose their own challenges.
Yeah,
no way.
But ironically,
why?
The irony is, well, here's the real irony, and this is one of the common misconceptions again in the general public. It's not the actual reactor plant that's the problem. There are a lot of other things. We've lost 2 nuclear submarines in peacetime, none of which were really due to the reactor causing the problem. There were other systems that actually failed and caused these guys to die. So,
Yeah, but it's kind of like with an increased complexity of technology,
Absolutely right.
you have increased risk.
Exactly.
Okay,
I
so
think we had a conversation about that once.
we probably did.
Well, and there's other ways of nuclear reaction that have been being used. I mean, you actually have the Japanese who have some experience dealing with nuclear things.
Yes.
They actually developed back in the late 60s, early 70s a low pressure reaction kind of system that it is viable, but it doesn't churn. There's not as much efficacy as with what we currently have going on right now, but it is safer. So, I mean, there's something to be said for maybe increasing that technology. But you said you got out in 97?
97, yeah.
Okay. And is that where you went? Did you go straight from that to first responding, or did you?
No,
did you take a woodworking course at your local community college? Or what's up?
So, well, my grandfather was apparently he died when I was 6, so I really never got a chance to really know him. But it's my dad's dad, my paternal grandfather. He was apparently quite the craftsman. He built a number of these Chris Craft wooden boats in his garage. Wow, cool. That's a hobby. But he was a postman.
Here in Arizona?
No, this was in
a
little town called Scottsbluff, Nebraska.
Okay.
My dad is a broadcasting engineer.
Hey, these things.
So I grew up in broadcasting.
Welcome back, Connor.
Right? I know, still to this day, WKRP is probably one absolute favorite.
It's a good show.
I think we discussed WKRP before every show at some point.
Yes, exactly. We'll even do the theme song.
By the way, I have a great submarine story that segues into that. So, when I got out of the Navy, my folks, ironically, they had moved to Arizona from Minnesota while I was actually on deployment, and so this was one of those times I was at sea for 6 weeks, I think, at that point, and we were cruising across the Atlantic and doing shit in the Mediterranean, and then first submarine, the seal delivery thing. What it had was it had this secondary chamber that we could attach to the top of the sub itself that had access through the. There was 3 main hatches, a forehatch, and then this one in the center that was what they call the weapon shipping hatch. And it was just big enough to load torpedoes and tomahawks at an angle.
So what kind of diameter are you talking about?
About 36 inches, 34 inches.
Okay.
Not
That's
huge.
what she said.
Right. Yeah.
School heart, though.
Exactly. Yes. I can scrape the tuna can, but I can't buy them now. So.
That is a military guy's joke right there. I'm digging it. So you had this extra chamber.
Yeah. So you could attach this.
Decent girth.
It was basically a diving lockout chamber. We attached to that, and inside of it was a little 6-man mini sub.
Wow.
What we would do is we would go to about 60 feet, which is what they call periscope depth. So that's 62 feet is about as deep as you can be and still have a little something sticking out of the water. Again, that's what she said.
Yeah.
And it was a safe enough depth for these guys to operate.
Sure.
So they'd get in their little 6-man mini sub, and it wasn't like an enclosed thing. It was like the Magic School Bus underwater, and they're just they drive it to whatever beach and go kill somebody. And
I was about to say go kill somebody.
Come back, because and my favorite thing is
that's the job.
I think it was my second trip into the Med was when what was then former
Med meaning Mediterranean.
Yeah, Mediterranean. Yeah. So at this point we were in the Adriatic, and this is when the former Yugoslavia was falling apart, and our at that point our Secretary of State was issuing a press release that Clinton was president then.
That would have been Madeleine Albright. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So she's issuing the press release and stating in no uncertain terms that we were not going to be getting involved in the conflicts in Yugoslavia. And I'm literally copying because pretty much everything we did was on teletype. So I would get these teletype printouts of just the news and sports of the day and shit,
Rat rig operator.
Right. And so I'm sitting there, I'm reading this Madeleine Albright press release, coming across the teletype while I'm so close to the beaches of Yugoslavia that we can watch trucks drive on it.
Well,
a unit of Navy SEALs
I could take out this truck driver with a pellet gun.
Right.
It's so reminiscent of Clear and Present Danger, where he's testifying, and Benjamin Braxton actually deployed in Colombia.
Right. Moving forward, we're not compromising anybody or anything right now. Oh my God!
Probably.
By the way, my name is Darius Bagfeld. I'm not sure who I'm here with today.
I did sign some pretty profound non-disclosure agreements.
Right, but
at the time, so after I got out, there was a book that these two authors published called Blind Man's Bluff. And when that book came out, it blew open all of our secrets. Incidentally, they call the submarine service a silent service. It was really more of a tongue-in-cheek statement, because it wasn't so much that we were quiet underwater. It was that none of us ever talked about
what you did.
And like we would almost to a fault. Every guy I was with on those boats, they wouldn't even tell their family about this stuff. So, because we took it very serious.
And that trend has kind of changed, and it's funny where not only has the trend changed, but the guys that used to be the best at keeping their mouths shut, the SEALs, are now the ones that are writing books and doing movies. And I have Army friends who are Delta guys and Special Forces guys, and they're like, "The fuck are they doing?"
Right. And a lot of that, I think, to be honest with you, that came. Well, I mean, hey, it's money. So, but what's interesting too is if you're an officer, you actually, part of your oath as an officer, according to UCMJ, is that you're not actually allowed to even write books and publish to profit from it. Like, that's actually in your code of conduct. So, regardless of what you do, you can't you can write your own memoirs while you're an officer. After you retire,
you're kind of.
But
our citizen.
Now, the funniest part about that particular spec op was that imagine we have this entire event, and for the record, almost everything that we did was all NSA managed. None of it was really Department of Navy. Like once we set that hatch and we were underway, like our attachment to the Navy was about as ceremonial as anything could possibly get. That was irrelevant.
You can use our gas stations. That's about it.
And in fact, it was right down the point. Even like when that hatch shut and we were underway, the uniform we wore was a blue coverall, just like your gas station attendant.
Jumper.
And they call him a poopy suit. I don't fucking to this day know why. I just don't understand it.
Yeah. They did that with a lot of the original cosmonauts and astronauts as well. Yeah, your poopy suit.
What in the world? And then after wearing one of those for as long as we wore them. It makes me wonder, like, why do girls wear jumpers? It makes it so hard to take a shit. Like,
right, exactly.
Because invariably, like, you gotta go take a shit.
I thought
now all this stuff you're wearing is in a ball on the floor, and you piss on it or standing.
I thought it was completely normal behavior to get completely naked every time you have to evacuate your.
But I will say though, except for that particular, except for that particular aspect of it, walking around in a one-piece jumpsuit was the greatest thing in the universe. And then we didn't we didn't wear boots. We all had to wear tennis shoes underway. Because they're quieter. Boots are pointless. So the irony of the submarine service is that almost everything you did had some sort of form of common sense built around it instead of your typical military bullshit. So that was really helpful.
I know plenty about the typical military bullshit.
Right. Even underway, like the uniforms that we wore, pretty much unless you were E7 and above, you didn't even wear a rank insignia. There was no point in it. So because it
was just like, hey you, turn that wrench.
Right. Like I remember talking to one of my E6s. I was like, how come you don't wear your first class pin? He's like, because I know I'm a first class. We were like,
we're a mile underneath the ocean. Who the hell cares?
Right. And then somebody's got like my lead petty officer, the dude in charge of us in my division he was like, if you're not listening to me because I'm a good leader, then my rank doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's a great quote.
That is a very
but that was the
very
overall.
Good quote.
To be honest with you, that was the overall attitude of almost everyone I served with in there. And a big part of it was that back when I said that we were better trained and better at doing the job than the Russians were. A big part of it was because every single one of us down there were there because we had literally volunteered to do it.
Right.
And we had ample opportunities to unvolunteer.
And that is the value of an all volunteer service.
Right. Well, that sounds very libertarian. Anyway.
Well, if you want to go ahead and correlate common sense to libertarian, well then these things happen once in a while.
I'm half kidding, but yeah.
Me too.
So you have your 6-year distinguished career, and then your parents decide to move there.
Well, yeah, they moved, and I tried to call them when we pulled into Italy, and the number was disconnected. And I was like, shit. What happened to my parents? And
I guess I get back on the boat.
This is the day before like cell phones and email. You know,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because like to make that phone call, I had to like figure out someone who could speak English and sell me a calling card. You know, use this Italian phone. You know,
Right,
I don't know. Like
Andiamo.
A real
right.
pain, yeah.
Like I'm a North Dakota kid. Like how the fuck am I? You know. So,
You just need to speak English slower and louder.
Yeah, that's the trick.
That's what people think.
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
You just wave liras in front of their face.
Yeah.
So. It's the universal language of money.
Yeah.
So finally I get the mail because it took like a week for the mail to show up, and then they're like, "Oh, by the way, we moved to Tucson, Arizona." I was like, "What the fuck is Tucson, Arizona?" And so you know, I spent the last 3 years of my enlistment in this horrible, awful hellhole, Pearl Harbor, Hawaii.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Sounds.
You should all feel bad for me.
Sounds terrible.
You and Jennifer Garner.
Just think on
Kate
that in
Beckinsale
despair, right? It was
on the
horrible.
beach.
Right, it was horrible. Like I surfed every day. I was in port. You know, like the food was awful.
Yeah.
People were super cruel.
Local culture just has no respect for you.
Right.
Weather.
Just
The
geez.
weather was just.
Just to give you an idea, like the barracks I lived in, none of the barracks, or even really most of the municipal buildings on base, had either heaters or air conditioners.
You didn't need them.
Right, and it's crazy how you didn't need them.
I was over there with my dad when he was stationed over there, and yeah, you're right. Couldn't pick a worse time to spend a couple years.
No, it was
You know,
awful.
gosh,
Yeah, it was
I don't
awful.
know how
Right.
I don't know how you did it.
There-
I'm glad you're here with
Right.
us. I'm glad you didn't.
So then, yeah, I got out and had a little bit of savings that I managed to squirrel away on some of the deployments, and I moved in with my folks. I was 24, I think, and dated a few girls, and ultimately got one pregnant, and I'm still here.
That's how that works.
21 years later, I moved here in 1997.
So,
Wow, right on.
when was your introduction to? Did you do fire first and then EMS, or EMS and then?
Yeah, I started down the fire pathway. I was actually, you guys Tucson natives?
More or less.
This dickhead is.
All right.
I've been all over the place,
So-
but I spent most of my time here. Yeah.
So you remember I'm JJ and I'm the king of beepers?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so
The beeper king.
The guy who came along after that, I wound up working for Joe Christiani.
Yeah, I know him
Oh,
too.
Yeah.
So I wound up selling cell phones, but before that I was working at a coffee shop. And you guys are probably insiders, so this might not make
What's the name of the coffee shop?
The main shop is a place called Planet Coffee. And it was on First. Okay, you know, on First and Foremost, really cool sign right there. It says Dagwood's.
Yeah.
That sign was our sign. We made that. You know,
Okay.
the guy who owned it. But
Right.
like, there were only 4 of us that worked there. So it's like, when I say we, it was a really small group of people.
course.
My brother was the roaster, and Frank, the guy who owned it, and then myself, and then this other chick I think was working there occasionally.
That's actually when I got into coffee houses, because I am about 40
Right,
years old. That's
right.
about when I started punching my hipster card over
Right,
and over,
exactly.
you know. And then I eventually moved
Right.
to Seattle, and then,
Oh, so you're like my brother. He went full hipster. Now he's
Yeah.
My brother is the roast master for Cartel.
right.
So-
And if either me or your brother made any more hipster decisions, hipster critical mass
Yes.
would tip, and we'd collapse in on ourselves
Right.
in a puff of clove smoke.
Yeah. And if anybody's actually watching this video right now and can actually see the visual, I fucking hate hipsters.
Me too.
Don't let the mustache, the
and
goatee, the shirt,
the pithy shirt, the Bloody Mary.
my gay Arizona hat. Literally, this is gay
It's
Arizona
really
hat.
No, it looks
Right.
good to me, buddy.
I have a friend of mine who owns an embroidery business. Like, they sell these items like this, and they're all custom done. And I saw.
He said, "Make me a gay ass."
Well,
hat."
I read this blog post about this dude who's like, he was actually a minister, but he was wearing a state of Washington hat with a pride
Right,
flag on it,
right.
and wound up on a plane flight, you know, with another gay man, and that guy was like, "What's the deal with your hat?" And he's like, just feel like, you know," he's like, "Are you gay?" And he's like, "No."
No.
He's like, "Why are you wearing the hat?" He's like, "Well, you know," they went into the whole thing, and I was like, "Man, that's fucking dope."
Right.
So I emailed my friend Steve, and I was like, "Dude, can you make me one Arizona one?" And he's like, well, yeah, let me see if I can get it done. And I was like, hold on a second. So I reposted that story and said, hey, I want to make this hat. And then there's a huge comment list that happened after that.
Of course.
And my friend Steve was like, well, I guess I can make hats now.
I have to now. Yeah.
Because there's like 40 already.
Right. So I ordered it and bought it. Now I'm confused.
Oh, sure you are. I don't believe that for a second. So your firefighting career started here in Southern Arizona.
Yeah, right. It was one of those things. I was working at Joe Christiani's. One of my buddies, a guy I was working with, his name's Rick. Hey, Rick. Shout out to you, buddy. You remember?
That's right.
Rick Dahlstrom. He was an employee there too, and he had been a former Rural Metro firefighter, but he had, like, in the process of doing, injured his back and basically could never really do the fire stuff again. And he handed me a newspaper clipping. He's like, "Hey, check this place out. This is a Northwest Fire. They're doing an academy. You should go." And I was like, "Ah, shit, why not?" So I threw my name in the hat, and not to brag at all the other applicants, but went through their academy, became a fireman. In the process, I think I was about probably 2/3 of the way through my fire academy because unfortunately it wasn't like a full-time deal. So it took like 5 months to finish the academy. It was every Friday and every Friday night, every Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, it's like my 10-month medic class.
It was horrible, right? And
an accelerated course,
right? And it would have been horrible, except for it would have been more horrible, if I was working like more of a 9-to-5 job. Although at one point, like, because I left a coffee job, did the cell phone thing, and the cell phone thing was really part-time, so it wasn't killing me to work those weekend shifts. But then I left there was a lot I just didn't like about retail sales. And I took a job for one of my former customers from the coffee place. His name's Darren. He owns landscaping business called Infinity Earthworks, and I was like, "Hey, Darren, can I be a landscaper?" And he's like, "Yeah, dude." And my first paycheck was basically paying off the pair of boots he bought me.
Yeah.
But he was like one of those dudes that was like, "These are the boots you need, and they're the best." And I was like, "Okay, I don't know. All right, I get it, whatever." And it was like, the Wildland boots.
Yeah.
Same thing, like 500 eyelet, up to my knee.
Yeah.
The Red Wings.
Yep, Red Wing.
Damn, are those good boots.
Red Wing, you get your money's worth.
Right. They're like, $280 boots, but they were pretty dope. Like, ultimately I ruined them off-roading because I melted the soles off in my muffler. That's a long story. So did that, and then about probably 2/3 of the way through my fire academy, I realized I had to be an EMT, and then I took an EMT, I started my EMT coursework. And it was then that, like, I thought firefighting stuff was pretty dope, but during the EMT course stuff, I was like, "Oh, this medicine stuff is where it's at."
Yeah.
I want to do this.
The thing I find with people who start in fire, because when it happens the other way around, normally the people that start in the medical part of it,
right?
We still love the medical part of it.
Yeah.
We're doing the fire because we can make a little bit more money.
Right.
But
right.
when you find people that love to be on the box,
right,
that started in fire, it's just you catch that bug. You're like, the body does what?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
I can fix this how?
Right.
That's amazing.
And then about 10 years ago, I got the wild hair up my ass that I was going to be a doctor, and did all this stuff. I finished my pre-med coursework, and actually, I never really finished my bachelor's. That's a long story. I'm one paper shy of finishing my bachelor's.
Come on.
Well, it's part and parcel for people like me. I probably have 300 plus credit hours under my belt. So because they just never could stick with something. Like all of my bachelor's coursework is in philosophy, and then
that's why you don't have a.
Right.
That's why you have a. It's like trying to nail Jello to a wall.
Right. So because like my major was in specifically continental philosophy and like French postmodern deconstructionism, and my minors, I had a double minor in comparative religion and physical sciences. I had
so you remember Groundhog Day?
Yes.
When Bill Murray just is trying to land that date over and over, and he's like, "Oh, so what'd you major in?" "No, 18th century."
Yes.
Oh my God, what a waste of time!
What a waste of time!
Cut. All right, let's go back. No, but
18th century French poetry. What a waste of time.
No, but honestly, but I'm glad to hear minds like yours Because I do think that is a sign of a healthy mind, somebody who's eclectic
Sure.
in their learning and in their worldviews. I'm glad somebody like you has served and has gleaned, information from your military service. And
the antidote to Gillette is to have more Renaissance men.
whoa, okay, so we're just going to go ahead. You've been looking at my notes, I can tell.
No, it's a hot button issue.
All my notes.
If you've been on my Facebook page, you'll see that it has been nonstop with that.
I am a parakeet when it comes to Facebook. I just stare at myself in the mirror
Gotcha,
the whole
right.
time and preen.
So Instagram.
But no, let's go. Yeah, let's go with that. Let's go with the Gillette thing because I was talking before the show, before you got here,
Sure.
about how a lot of companies, multinational companies, that vacuum up huge amounts of resources at the
Right.
expense of a lot of times local culture of people, are going to jump on that social justice warrior, like, hey, it's not okay to be this way or that way, but also buy our shit.
Right.
Which
Right.
came to you at an affordable cost at the expense of other people.
Right.
And Gillette followed Nike. Not that I'm not agreeing with some of their writers, some of the people that have gone to colleges for psych probably,
Sure.
as well as advertising, marketing and stuff like that. And they probably have various degrees. These people have worked very hard on how to piss us off into
Right.
buying Schick or Gillette or
Right.
Reebok or Nike.
Right.
But it's all the same materials. It's all the same companies that are sourcing the base materials
Right.
for all of these razors, all of these shoelaces, all of this rubber.
That's why you buy a dog shaped club.
So
Exactly. Oh, I love Dollar Shave Club.
I just I try not to shave that often. That's my personal
Me
thing.
neither.
But let's
You guys with facial hair talking about razors. That's awesome.
But
That's so
exactly.
cute.
Well, we do groom up. I mean, this
Sure.
guy's got some fucking artisanal beeswax in his goddamn mustache over
You
here.
want to know the worst
Locally
part about it?
sourced.
Oh, it's really locally sourced.
Is it?
You know how
Do
locally sourced
do you
it
have
is?
your own apiary?
I make my own mustache
Good
wax.
God, you were like.
There it is.
Yeah,
Check
This
it out.
is-
okay.
Oh, and it
He
smells
is a
good.
Renaissance man.
No, this is
Yeah,
like.
that's made by me in my
and that's the
kitchen.
thing. That's the thing. And it does smell great. I'm not going to touch it because it's been around your face. It's gone from being a Renaissance man to being a hipster or social justice warrior, and I think everybody's kind of blended in, like just the fact that you know more than one thing, or you might have more than one hard left or hard right or hard red, hard blue view. They view you as a hipster if you're just saying, oh, can't we all just get along, or isn't there some other option other than left or right?
Well, of course
You
there is.
get branded as a
Right.
hipster nowadays.
Of course, there's another option. There are about 5,000 other options. But the biggest problem, the reason this Gillette ad is where it is first of all, they're capitalizing on they're capitalizing on the problems of intersectionality rather than using intersectionality as a way to, bridge these gaps and divides and fix problems. And so, first of all, like my beef. Well, okay, I'm going to bring up a few things that are going to get me in trouble because these are hot button
Fine.
constructs.
Do it.
So first of all, I'm going to issue, I guess, a few little housekeeping caveats because every philosophical conversation has to
Caveat.
begin with
Oh, such a
thousands
good
of
word.
caveats.
Such a good word.
In fact, in my journeys through studying philosophy, there was a guy, his name's A.J. Ayers, founded an idea called logical positivism, and the framework for that is that you really can't actually debate or discuss a thing. Almost all the debate ultimately is only going to be centered around the language of the thing. So the biggest problem we have every single time we get into these types of conversations is that it's the lack of clear definitions for the terms that we use, like socialism.
Sure.
Let's throw the word socialism around and
Right.
mean whatever the fuck we want it to
Exactly.
Yeah, and the thing about socialism, that's a perfect example
Right.
because the word itself is a trigger.
Right, right.
For whether it's a good trigger or a bad
Right.
trigger, and then nothing gets discussed, and the
Right.
definition, the actual meaning of
Right.
socialism is lost. It's
Right.
ether. It's irrelevant. It's just kind of like,
Right.
well, that person said it. In fact, I was listening to a podcast the other day, and kind of like one of the worst things that could happen to the climate change movement was Al Gore making a movie about
Right.
it.
Yep.
Because people were like, oh, that's Al Gore, that's lefty, that's bullshit.
Right.
You know, and it's like, but we're talking about science.
Sure.
It's
About
like
math and numbers.
Right.
Turning you off.
Right.
Yeah.
If Carl Sagan had maybe made the movie, people would be like, oh. You know,
maybe.
Well, I grew up in a super conservative household. And, like, my dad was you know, my dad currently is like super religious, was like a die-hard Carl Sagan like fan. So, like, you know.
Right, I mean,
he was an appealing man because he didn't do that shit where he alienates everybody.
Well, and I think that's where we're getting to some of what else we want to discuss. The alienation that's so prevalent nowadays. And it's funny because social media was kind of, I think, the idea of making a more inclusive society,
right.
and what it's actually done, in fact, maybe not on its own algorithms or anything, but maybe just because of how humans, Western humans, are,
sure.
is we do exclude, and we do. It's an alienation is a knee-jerk reaction for, I think, a lot of modern humans in the Western Hemisphere.
Well, so I guess to take maybe 1,700 steps back,
That's a lot.
we are, you know, essentially as far as evolution goes, we're still basically apes with dollars.
Yes.
And now all of a sudden we have this crazy thing at our fingertips. It's probably the most powerful tool in the known universe, the internet.
Yeah.
Like literally, one of my favorite jokes is like I literally have a profoundly inexpensive device in my pocket that has the sum total of human knowledge accessible to it almost all the time. And about the most that I do is look at porn and argue with people on the internet. Like, that's what I do with this thing, you know. And
But there was a study, a paper that came out that basically said, you know, we might have been wrong about the evolutionary development of logic and reason.
Mm-hmm. Right.
The idea is, the classic idea is that the evolutionary development of logic and reason was so that we could learn more and interact and get along together.
Right.
When they're finding that the evolution of logic and reason was so that you could win your argument.
Right. Well, so for example, that's when you like that movie Real Genius? One of my favorite lines.
Oh God, with Val Kilmer?
Yeah. My favorite lines is
Great young Val Kilmer movie.
Right. In the immortal words of Socrates, I drank what? But
That's a good guess. This has been a really good get today, man. I really like this so far.
But Socrates, like his actual official crime was corrupting the minds of the youth, and but what he was really getting in trouble for was the current flair at the time were the sophists, and these were people who developed the tactics of argumentation, and they took the tactics of argumentation and created a framework that they could win an argument tactically rather than
logically.
Well, they figured out how to use the framework of syllogistic logic in order to defeat someone else's argument, regardless of the validity of the argument.
Right.
So you use the absurd, you know, to twist the framework around. And Socrates was the master of syllogism, so he did the same things, but he also had the benefit of being correct.
It sounds like the birth of narcissism.
The facts were on his side.
Well, in a very real sense, yes. But the problem is what the sophists had begun to do was that this was actually money-making ventures.
Oh, sure.
And he was starting to cut into their paychecks, and you know, guess who the biggest sophists are? You know, rhymes with politician, and ultimately they were like, we got to kill this guy.
Well,
And he was given the option, and this is the craziest thing, he was given the option of either being exiled from Greece or death. And apparently being exiled was bad, I guess.
well, where else did you have to go?
Macedonia?
Eh,
I'm sure the Saracens would have been fine.
I don't know how he would have been received, to be quite honest. So I'm just trying to wrap my head around this. So you went to philosophy, and then you were like, yeah, philosophy, I could be a firefighter with this.
Well, had been in the fire service for 10 years.
Oh, okay. I was about to say, because actually a lot of firefighters, a lot of people I know in the fire group are well-read people, and they do kind of get into more ethereal venues of education than then just like a business degree or something like that. A lot of those enjoy recreational thinking.
Well, I'll tell you what happens, and it's funny that
I think they stare at fire too long.
Well, some of it's the existential
now,
dealing with death.
That's a misnomer. There's no fire in Arizona. Ask a firefighter. He's like, "There's a fire. Where?
Right.
The Vicks get hard. Anyway, but no, 10 years in is actually kind of when you make that realization as a first responder, where you're like, that might be part of it. But you definitely don't want to do it anymore for this amount of money. You know? And we always talk about you don't get into public service or anything like that for the money, and it's true, but you still would like to make a
podcasting.
Right.
But no, you get into that for the money. But
there's huge dollars in this if you like. Well, I mean, not so much here.
Not so much you.
Oh, I see.
Right.
But no,
maybe if we did some DMT, we could make this podcast.
Oh God!
I'll be right back.
Hey, look, it's Joe Rogan.
God, let me get to my car.
So that's probably what would happen to me. I would do DMT and I'd see Joe Rogan and be pissed off.
Right.
Like, really? This is it? This is my trip? But no, about 10 years in, you start to realize, I don't want to do this for this money, or I don't want to do this anymore. I want to do something else. And now that we do have the benefit of online education, and that's how I ended up getting my degree. I didn't get my degree until I was like 49 years old.
And shit, dude, how much of that stuff you can get just on like YouTube for free? Like,
oh yeah,
like I could be a total like master's degree in flat Earth.
Right. So I have.
We needed to have you come back for that specifically.
You can still do this. There are a lot of people, a lot of firefighters or medics or EMTs that are interested in nursing just because the money is just a little bit better. Just a little bit better.
And by little bit, you mean sustainable and you can possibly feed your family.
Right.
And afford to go to a doctor. And
So there are correspondence courses, and you can go on YouTube and the internet and basically collect out of every course, and then take the NCLEX, and then you also have to do there's like a physical demonstration. It's kind of like what we do in National Registry, but there's like a physical demonstration that lasts like 2 days. It shows you that you know how to do a nursing assessment, and then
NCLEX is a nursing certification.
Well, NCLEX is the test to become a nurse.
That's basically your licensing,
And we're talking to everybody here.
Yeah, I understand. Anyway,
they can Google it too,
Yeah, so I know a firefighter.
Let me get that for you.
Scott Billings, who he said, you know what, he spent $0, and he found all the materials online, and within like a year he was a nurse.
You sound like you want to be a nurse now.
No. Oh, that's when my wife hears that, she's gonna laugh like crazy. There's a current battle going on between my mother and I right now, because she thinks she's 77, so she's getting a little quirky, and she's at the point where she thinks everybody should just be a nurse. She's like, oh, well, why don't you just anybody that you run across, they lost their job. Oh, well, he should just be a nurse. She should just be a nurse. Mom, everybody can't be a nurse.
Right.
So I actually was thinking about nursing school, and then after working where you've seen me a lot, and after working in ERs, I was like, the fuck if I want to do that.
Sure.
The money is, maybe a little bit better, but I will find a different path. So that's how I ended up in law school.
And here we are.
Wait, you're in law school?
Yeah, I'm in law school.
That makes sense.
Doesn't it? I mean, he's already saying, like, move to strike, out of nowhere. Out of nowhere. He
Sidebar.
I'm like, what do you mean? We're already at the bar.
I'm just saying
what point do you learn, like, the bend and snap?
We've
been
been
legally blonde joke for anyone who doesn't watch movies from millennia.
We've been in close talks with Jimmy Smits for the last 18 months. He pulls it off and he looks good while doing it.
He looks amazing. He looks amazing.
He really does. He still does. So
LA law reference.
I know. Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome for that. I am old. I am a time lord. But so as we progress through this, through your journey here, Mr. Haworth, with a Y.
No, it's no Y, goddammit.
I'm gleaning some fun things here. Okay, so you went to you went and hung out underneath the water with a bunch of dudes for a very long time.
So you SpongeBob.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
And then you went to do first responders. And are you still currently a first responder?
No, currently, basically, I lease a very small office that just has a camera and a black couch. So.
Oh, a casting couch. I know a lot of hardworking.
1-900.
Right. We're currently seeking furloughed federal workers. So.
I bet.
So yeah, no,
So you're no longer a first responder at the time of this broadcast.
Right. Right now, well, yeah, I haven't been a first responder. I still actually have all my certifications and stuff, so those are still live. But I haven't been in the fire service or EMS since October, mid-October.
So are you doing your own private sector response?
No.
Oh, okay.
No,
So you didn't buy a rig
private
and
sector
put your
period.
lights on it.
Yes. Right. Because fuck you, AMR. I'm driving around, I'm picking up sick people.
It's like, wait, is this the Ecto 1 showing up to my house?
Yes.
They're charging you what?
Right.
Ah, gosh, give me $50 and get in.
Adrian, tell them about the Twinkie.
It's gonna be one big Twinkie.
Give me $50 and get in. I'll get you to the hospital.
No,
They're not doing anything in the back of there anyway.
You guys want a Demerol Colada? I got some brewing right up here.
As we kind of touched on at the beginning of the show, and, to keep with the ridiculous hipster motif,
Yes.
I build furniture.
Nice. Nice.
awesome.
I really do. Yeah, it really is true.
It's okay.
So, and like I said, we had this pre-show conversation where I didn't know that you had made that jump. I knew you were doing furniture. So my question was going to be, I know you would increase your participation in it, but I didn't know if you had ever formed a business.
I did. Well, so we actually turned into official, it's sole
proprietorship, yeah.
3 years ago, and then been in the process of finishing the LLC paperwork now. So it'll be an LLC. Although I've kind of dragged my feet in the LLC thing because there are pluses and minuses to going that route.
Do the LLC.
Well, if you drag your feet for another 3 years, I'll be able to help you.
All right. Well, at this point now, it's just convincing the state that this is actually my name, because apparently when we had first tried to file, they fucked up the paperwork. So now we're going through just this dumb rigmarole of the typical bean counting.
Yep.
You'll understand.
Right.
Look, dude,
and that's
just
about,
check a different goddamn box.
That's about the indefiniteness of a contract.
Right.
But anyway.
Right. So,
I had a couple LLCs. My first name is Green, and it
Yeah.
took literally an extra month because my first name was Green. They're like, no, I meant your first name.
It is my first name.
That is my damn first name.
My last name is Kicks Your Ass.
So you're a craftsman.
Sorry, that was my toxic masculinity.
Yeah, no, I've not observed anything toxic. It's just called being a human.
Speaking of toxic, I need to get one of these more Bloody Marys.
I'll get out there and do that. But let me ask a question first. Where did you learn your craftsmanship from? Or was it an innate kind of
want
ability?
to know, the honest truth?
Yeah.
This is going to be hilarious.
Did you just watch Parks and Rec and said, I'm going to be Ron Swanson?
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
I just learned how to do this stuff watching YouTube videos. Started about 4 years ago.
Okay, but I'm saying, did you have anybody in your family, a grandfather, a parent, or something like that, had a preternatural skill for that kind of stuff?
Well, my dad, he was a broadcasting engineer, but my dad, well, first of all, he's like a wizard with electronics.
Sure.
He's a guy, he was a ham radio guy.
Yeah.
Built all his own equipment, from scratch.
Excellent.
But he was also a machinist, so when he would build a ham, a ham receiver, all of the components would be in hand machine aluminum boxes.
That's incredible, and that is a skill set that is lost because there is no even way to achieve that nowadays.
Right.
You can't even get the equipment or the necessary materials to do that anymore.
This is going to take too much time to explain how it works, but for anyone who understands electronics, remember when I was still living at home and I was in high school, he was finishing a receiver and he was building the actual oscillator for it.
So awesome.
The oscillator he had encased in a completely hand machined aluminum cylinder, oven to keep it stable. And its frequency drift was so tight that he didn't even have a scope that was accurate enough to measure its drift.
That's badass. That is straight up like Doctor Who style fucking engineering right there.
He was something else, and so he wound up actually using that oscillator as the basis for other pieces of test equipment because it was more accurate than the equipment you could get commercially. So, and ultimately it became part of a process where he actually had a little invention. He's got some patents on it.
So you took that and you're now making tables?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Well, because I didn't necessarily have that end of the talent. Although when I show my dad, when my dad sees my work now, he's like, "Yeah, you're your grandfather." Like,
hey, that's a high praise indeed.
It is, and sadly, regardless of how we believe, religious afterlife, whatnot,
sure,
I'm pretty sure I'm just gonna be food for worms. But I really wish I could show my granddad. Like I wish he could see this because.
Yeah, that'd be great.
He was a hell of a guy. Like he's a guy he volunteered to go to war in World War I.
Yeah.
When he was 16 years old.
Yep.
And was field promoted to sergeant after everybody else died.
Sure. It's like, hey, you're still standing.
Right.
Here's some extra money, and here's some extra duties.
But he was about 17 and a half when he was field promoted to sergeant, and the individual who field promoted him was his Army captain, who was about 26 years old himself, and his name is Harry Truman.
Oh, that guy.
Wow.
Harold.
Right. My granddad was like neck and shoulder to shoulder with Harry Truman in World War I.
No shit.
They were
amazing.
What a trip, man.
They were in a little artillery unit in France and Aragon.
Far out. Far fucking out.
So, anyway, I don't know that I like the idea that you try to say that talent is innate.
Okay.
There's no laugh.
There is no laughing at Sam's. I just got a note from my producer. One of my producers just handed me a note that says we are laughing way too much. Dan Stubel, a hardworking man here in Arizona, one of my producers said that we're just carrying on way too much. And we are, and that's one of the fun things about this podcast is that we do this at a sports bar.
Let me give you permission to put my name.
With all kinds of it was
a public space, fucker.
That was Danielle Strobel, my ex-wife.
Right.
Yeah, right. I don't know. These things happen.
You stir the pot, the bees come out, baby.
Yeah, I like how that was on the video too. I feel like Walter Cronkite getting a special report.
Yeah.
Oh, this just in.
Like, this just in. The president's dead. I still can't get over they're sitting there talking about like the worst tragedy in decades, and he's smoking a cigarette. And he's like, there's John. John has a report from the grassy knoll, and he was there. Come on over, and he's smoking a cigarette, and he's talking to him, and like, I swear it's like this far from his face.
Yeah.
And I'm like, get the fuck. You're gonna burn that poor dude.
Listen, cigarettes back then kept babies healthy.
Yeah, right.
The tar kept the bones together in utero.
Made airplanes luxurious.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we are progressing a lot, and I'm getting signs from our producers that we're running out of time, but we're not really. It's a podcast, but we are rounding to that point of modern people's attention spans.
Right.
And I wanted to touch on a couple.
We can split up and have part 2 that they can click on later.
Well, I also have to use the restroom.
Well, Adrian and I can take it from here.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and gloss over that. I'm very essential to the operation. You and Adrian can just take over. Yeah, right.
Oh, for a minute there, I was like, okay.
Wow.
What do you got?
I don't know.
Haywood and Haworth.
Haywood and Haworth.
I was like, is that what it's going to be? And then I'm going to be pushed
Yes,
out?
we're going to start. We're going to match our tartans together. Make sure we have similar colors.
Well,
as soon as the bagpipes start playing.
I unfortunately don't have a tartan. My name is a peasant name, so.
I worked for the royalty for a while. I have a tartan, unfortunately.
But let's a house nigger.
Oh,
holy shit! That just happened.
NSFW, School of Hard Thoughts. That is Adrian talking, and
I'm not allowed to talk that way. That's not in my lane.
No, it's toxic.
Right.
If we do that. So, anyways, let's.
That's okay. AOC is going to be coming after me now. And
that's good.
Very happy.
Oh, lucky for you.
She's so hot.
Please chase me down.
Listen,
she's so hot.
I'm not going to say that.
Okay, first of all,
I want to stay married. But
first of all, I think she's incredibly intelligent.
Say it.
And she's hot as fuck.
Say it.
But unfortunately, I think I don't. Oh well, I guess we're now on a different topic.
It's a podcast. It doesn't matter. we'll talk about whatever we want.
AOC is about to come headlong. How do you actually pronounce it? Is it Ocasio-Cortez or
So Ocasio-Cortez.
Yeah.
Ocasio-Cortez.
Okay. Right. Would you say I have a plethora of piñatas?
CFA, you have a
CFA, you have a plethora. Why would you tell me you have a plethora when you do not know what a plethora is?
As long as we're not talking about, anyways. So Ocasio-Cortez.
Ocasio-Cortez. Here's the irony. She thinks she won. She didn't win. She became important enough that now the system has figured out how to co-opt her, and that's what's going to happen. She's going to get steamrolled and ground into the system just like Barack Obama did. Unfortunately, because I think like when good old Barry became president, I know that he had the intense
Time will tell. Time will tell.
The system, and then after he got sworn in, they handed him the little black book of like, all right, here, dude, here's the real story. And if you do this, this is the number of people who are going to die.
Here's Area 51. This is where all the aliens are. This is the Vatican spaceship.
They were actually talking about that the other day on Rogan. That it seems that the truth is every president, whether they're Republican or Democrat, they have a great idea or maybe not a great idea, but they have an idea of what they're going to do, come in, and then they get that first briefing during a transition, and it tells them the truth about every conspiracy theory and everything that's going on.
The lizard people running the planet.
And it's like, dude, you absolutely fucking have to do what you have to fucking do. And
got to keep the ball rolling.
Yeah. Every one of these senior
we're
leaders.
not getting out of Afghanistan. No. We're not. We're gonna kill people in drone strikes. That's what we're gonna do. Otherwise, a lot of people are gonna die that we don't want to die. So yeah, I think it ends up being.
It's the global status quo.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, every leader. So
maybe there is a deep state.
Maybe. But I think the real truth is it's probably less conspiratorial. And it's that every time these guys get in this position, even down to the level that AOC's at as a junior congressperson, all of a sudden you come headlong with the trolley problem. And which one do you want this trolley to run over?
Right.
The difference with 45 is he's trying to figure out which I can run over. Is it possible I can run over both?
Right. Exactly.
That's way more
can
fun.
I split the train and kill the one guy and the whole family?
Like, is there a way that as I run over the baby, I could drive by and shoot the old lady
I
too?
love the trolley problem.
Right. Well, everybody does. Especially.
You kill the one. I'm sorry. You save the 5. You kill the 1. I don't care. I mean, stats and probability are stats and probability.
Right.
Yeah, that's just that.
That's if you're a difference in.
The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, or the one. Live long and prosper.
Okay. Let's take a brief station break. The chairs.
Mazel tov.
Oh, this segment brought to you by imbibing wonderful apple flavored whiskey. I think that was.
I just told him to get you your normal.
Yeah, and that feels pretty normal to me. I'm not gonna say any brand names because they've yet to pay me. But okay, so so we've been talking about, and man, are we ending on a high note here? We're talking about deep state conspiracies, about how the fact that lizard people run the whole flat Earth. I do think there is a difference between everything that has happened up till now, because
we are for sure in a transition.
So because literacy in general wasn't that popular until about 80 years ago.
Right. Yeah. Farming was, your talent at being able to plow a field was what.
Or craftsmanship. Right. But yes, using your hands as a workable skill to make something that is tangible, that you can see, that you can use. About the last 80 years is when literacy really started to get hip. And now we're starting to see some of the blowback from that, which is social media, which is, I call social media when literacy has gone too far.
Oh yeah, for sure, right? Yeah, I did.
Because no longer can you just be content to go to a public library. By the way, visit your public library. A public library is the last place, one of the last bastions of democratic society that you're not expected to pay any money. You can get a lot of information there, you can meet a lot of really good people there, and you don't have to pay a damn cent. Visit your public libraries. But we've kind of taken it too far, and
incidentally, they were really established by the original robber barons themselves.
Absolutely,
which is the craziest thing.
Was Robin Hood a real character? Sorry, I know that's a slight rail jump, but anyways,
there is some possibility that yes, he was.
But what I'm seeing now, as somebody who barely grew up outside of the realm of internet, because I'm about 40, so I did have a job in applications, and my first wife and everything like that was around before.
Right.
You know,
you knew what it was like to have
internet.
to walk to somebody's house or make a phone call.
Or make plans.
Yeah, write a letter.
Plan your day out.
Listen, fuckers. I was born in 1967.
Oh,
I know what a rotary phone is. Okay, so.
Crap, that's what happened.
No, man, he does look younger than both of us put together.
It does. What the fuck is this all
And
about?
I kind of, we have to stop this just for a second because I kind of want to. It's gonna happen. It's just gonna happen. So, fuck you too, bro.
We got a lot of fans here today. Jesus.
It's gonna happen. The moment we had back there where I used the N-word, and there are a lot of people who don't know, and I'm just going to make my philosophy known.
It's not white.
Right. Well, it's not just that. I'm going to make my philosophy known on the M-word. First of all, I don't
like an extra deleted scene from a Brother Where Art Thou?
I don't particularly like the word. However, I'm not one of those black people who thinks we shouldn't use it.
Sure.
What I think actually is that we should take ownership.
Sure, okay.
Like, you can't say it, you can't say it,
Right.
but I can say
Right.
it. And I probably shouldn't say it, but if I choose to say it, fuck you.
I'm fine with that.
I'm going to say it. So,
Well,
just
very
so
well
everybody
way.
knows, I don't use that word quite often. I normally only use it around other black people. You know, and you hear it in rap a lot. But I
like rap a lot.
I am absolutely not ashamed of the fact that it came out because it was comedic and it was real and it was raw. And guess what? I'm allowed to say that.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just kind of wanted to get it out there.
Like the only time I ever use it is when I'm by myself in my car and I am actually blasting it.
Right, you're singing
like
the
that
song.
happens, and I'm not gonna lie, like, you know, because I mean,
My
you can't
friend,
fill in other words. It ruins
my friend that
poetry.
you may know, Josue Carrasco, he's always coming to me like, "Can I say it? Can I
Yeah,
say
oh
it?"
my god, no.
Like,
So,
no,
so,
you can't say
so
it.
it does create kind of a dichotomy mentally for me because I have a lot of friends from a lot of different cultures. A lot of my friends are black, and they say like, "Hey man, I'll see you later, my N-word," and I'm like, "Ow,
My dudes.
so yeah, you got it, brah."
Yeah,
Anytime, guy.
But look, here's the thing.
Because I want to be involved with the camaraderie.
Right, and it puts you in an awkward position.
I'm
but
just like,
that
oh.
awkwardness is what's intended.
Oh, good. Hey, you know what?
If you're a white person, you're really only going to be allowed to use that word if the entire federation agrees unanimously at their vote, and they only get together about every 200 years.
Federation.
You know?
Yeah.
So the Black Federation, they have to say unanimously to
that kind of like butts
you can
with
use
black-
Oh my God. Circling back around to what I was trying to talk about.
So otherwise, no, you don't have permission.
So I was talking about public libraries, about how they're great, and about how literacy wasn't hip until about 80 years ago. And now, do we have too much literacy? Because now all of a sudden, and you know what, this conversation is actually ripe for this topic. With the advent of social media, I have, unfortunately, there's been friends that I've had for multiple decades that there was one titular kind of, or one linchpin or one fucking thing that we just didn't see head to head on, and then all of a sudden, boom, do I absolve that friendship because of one disagreement? And because the way social media is marketed to us non-stop, it's something that's always in our pockets, always in our brains.
Wait, why you gotta bring up old shit?
We can't. No. I'm talking about myself. The personal cost of social media and always being connected, and is that something that we actually need as a functioning society? Should we always have to be in each other's face all the goddamn time?
Right, and I think it comes back to what Aaron was saying. Is we have this beautiful tool, the internet, where we have the knowledge of man,
especially
at our
social media.
fingertips.
That connectivity is
And
unbelievable.
what we decided to do with it is watch porn, which is okay. That's a good idea. But watch
I'm all for
porn
it.
and argue with each other
good for you.
on the internet.
Vitamins.
And
Right.
and this is something that I wanted to make sure that I did. I wanted to look you in the eye and Fuck you now. I wanted to look I wanted to look you in the eye because you and I had one of those moments where which was and it was completely ridiculous.
Wait, can I preface this a little bit?
Yeah, go ahead.
So,
You're doing fine.
So
that's my job.
Because I thought maybe like
oh my God.
So
it's a shotgun mic, so don't swallow it.
Right. Remember the summary stuff? So
nothing but dudes.
It's black too.
Okay, so before you go, I know where this is headed. I have to, kind of express a little bit like, I quit in October in pharmaceutical, and the predicate for that was really that coming into probably by this July last year, 2017, I was really reaching that point when there was not much of me left. Like I was in a bad place. So even though my business was doing well, cumulatively I was probably cranking out 100 hours a week between working on a box and I'm probably going to get in trouble for this. But the thing about the Gillette commercial is it isn't inaccurate. Like that conversation, if you stripped Gillette away from that video and it was just a non-branded video without marketing and stuff behind it, it's basically just something informative that really discusses the real problem. So that's but it's like any other tool or weapon. How it gets wielded becomes the problem, not the message itself. But that was probably where we should have gone with the earlier part of the podcast.
Don't tell me how to run my podcast.
No, this is my fault because I ramble on all kinds of other bullshit.
It's okay.
This is
and
entirely me.
And that's what podcasts are for,
like,
long form conversation.
Right.
You need every word. Every word needs to be considered.
I'm not the guy shy in front of the microphone.
Absolutely.
So, in fact, there's a reason all
that
my
would be
phones are
Where's O at?
This is one of my favorite interviews, by the way.
I don't even remember what we were arguing over. It's just that I was at that point when probably I was drunk too, and then even just today, I just witnessed two people that I know and respect really on the social media realm just fucking having it out with each other, and I was like, dude, and I didn't know how to say this to this other guy. I was like, man, I'm telling you, dude. That comment you made that started this whole chain of shit between the two of you, you are going to regret.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, I regret my behavior.
No,
I think we all
behavior
have.
was fine.
I think any responsible adult.
I don't remember the subject matter. I do remember, and my preface is that first of all, you were somebody that I always respected, and it was about the fact that I'm going to call you a skeptic because I don't know that you're an atheist, okay? But you're at least a skeptic. And atheists, I'm sorry, atheists, we look for friends.
Sure.
Because they're even though it's up to 25%,
and even atheists are just dicks to each other.
Right.
Like, dude, Sam Harris, calm the fuck down sometimes.
No shit.
Oh, we just had Steve Shots and I were just talking about Sam Harris.
Right, exactly. Shots hates him.
Yeah, it's funny. Shots hates him, and we were, but he actually doesn't hate him. But you should watch that.
I will.
You should watch the next last School of Hard Thoughts podcast.
Yeah. So what basically happened was we were, first of all, not only did we respect each other because we knew each other personally, and I knew what you did. Right. I respected you as a medic because I've got your patience. Right. And it's something that, and this is going to be a long explanation, so just bear with me. But it's something that you don't see when you're in the field. When you're in the field, you're like, I think so-and-so is a good medic, but I'm not really sure. Or if you've worked with them, you see somebody do something. But let's face it, with skills, sometimes you just get fucking lucky. You're like, wow, he got that IV. Yeah, well, he missed 9 others. We don't know. Right. But working in the hospital, I respected you because, first of all, I just respected you as a person, but when you came in, your patients were right, you gave a good report, you did what you were supposed to do, and you also went the extra mile when you were allowed to. And I said, that he's solid at his job. He's a skeptic as well. And then for me, without being Sam Harris with the PhD, you were my local public intellectual. So I looked.
All right.
No, really, I looked to your page for somebody that I could go to and be like, yes,
Confirmation.
I completely agree with you, or I don't agree with you, but at least you're backing it up with common sense or facts or a study or something like that. And what happened with us was, I was kind of going through a period where I was really. It was after Trump won.
Yeah, we were all.
Yeah. And I was going through a period where I was sick of people who were on the fucking fence.
Right.
And actually that was completely unfair because we were allowed to be on the fence.
Right.
But I was sick of people who were on the fence. And then after Trump was elected, there were a lot of people, Michael Dowdy, who basically
Name dropper.
try to put themselves exactly down the middle, so they're like, well, you know, Trump did this and it was kind of good, and Trump did this and it was kind of bad, and I was like, no, fuck that. He's a criminal. He's the worst president ever. Don't be that guy.
Oh yeah.
So I was kind of upset with fence straddlers, and there was something that I thought you were straddling the fence on, and we kind of talked about it back and forth, but I made the mistake of threatening you. I made it a mano thing, which you'd probably kick my ass.
No,
but
not true at all.
I don't know
Big
because
marshmallow.
quite frankly, I'm one of those guys who, you know, because of the professions I've been in and because of the things that I've experienced, you know, I've been in some fights. Even though I'm tiny, I know how to fight, but at the same time, I remember the last physical fight that I was in, I got destroyed.
Sure. Oh.
So, you know, it's one of those things that you never take it to that level,
Right.
and I took it to that level with you. So one of the things I wanted to make sure I did in this podcast and just in life was apologize to you for my behavior, and I'm glad that you re-added me as a friend. But you did exactly the right thing. You were like, you know what? I just don't need to deal with this right now.
Well, that was, I think, and I've done that a few times. It's not, it's hard to communicate this necessarily, but a lot of times, like for example, and it seems passive aggressive because of the nature of what it is. But I've deleted other people, and most of the time, it really is because that's the only way I will keep myself from the temptation of writing more stupid shit. You know?
Yeah,
exactly.
You get in these arguments and
Right.
it just becomes perpetual.
Right, and if I'm like, and now like one of my favorite features of Facebook is just the snooze.
The unfollow or
Like unfollow
snooze,
snooze, because now I'm like, no, I'm not going to cut you out of my life, but I don't want to look at your shit.
I have more blocks than Minecraft on my account. I have blocked more people, and I've actually gone through and kind of re-edited those because just like you guys, you know, you get on there, and whether you've had something to drink or not, because your physiology doesn't care. Once your brain starts dumping down shit tons of adrenaline.
I think you just said I was drunk.
Anyway, no, once that limbic system starts dumping.
But that's the thing. I mean, your fight or flight doesn't care how it got there.
Right.
You're dealing with the matter of fact once you're in that fight or flight kind of thing. And I have challenged. I've challenged people whom I love unconditionally, and been like, listen, I'll set your house on fire. I don't give a shit.
Right. Yeah.
You know, because I get taken there. But that's the thing I'm talking about.
Because that dick on the internet's no different than the saber-toothed tiger as far as your ape brain goes. You know.
Pretty much. The reptilian brainstem part of me says that this is a threat and I must neutralize it. But that's the thing. I think our social space, in regards to social media and how constantly connected we are nowadays, is we as a animal are not keeping up with technology right now. We don't know how to metabolize a differing sense of opinion as good as we should right now. And maybe that's just maybe that's not a byproduct of physiology. Maybe that's a byproduct of cultural evolution
Or the technology.
Well, that's it. But either way, there is a disconnect going on right now that I think even people on both sides of the aisle could agree on that there is a disconnect going on between what is actually happening with the shoe leather on the fucking streets with your constituents and what is happening on Capitol Hill right now, no matter where you are.
Yesterday I spent almost 2 hours on the phone with my friend Alex. We were specifically like as one of the schools, we have like he is crazy smart, and so he's kind of like my resident intellectual as far as that goes too. You know, so we've had some back and forth, especially about stuff like the toxic shaving, and I was like, finally, I was like, you know what, fuck it, dude. I sent him a message like, dude, what's your goddamn phone number? He's texted me back. He's like, and I called him like immediately, and we were on the phone for about 2 hours, and it was amazing because we were actually able to, you know, speak to each other and get these ideas out in a way that makes more sense instead of just the anonymity of
more meaningful engagement.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, and that is, and I was talking to Steve about this last night, and one of the difference between the School of Hard Thoughts and any other podcasters out there is that this started as conversations in a bar, where you either meet somebody you know, or you meet a stranger, which is most of the time where it happened. Where I have two, and this is because I'm drunk. I have two very good friends that I met at this bar, and we had an intellectual connection where these are men that I am secure enough in my manhood that I can say that I love. And they both died on it. But we had an intellectual and emotional and social connection, and I wanted to bring that type of thing to the public square. I wanted to bring it out to the world because, let's face it, guys like Joe Rogan and Sam Harris and all the guys who have podcasts, they're great. But they're privileged, they're intellectuals, they're celebrities, they're a little bit removed from fucking reality.
They're very much removed.
And so there's a lot of times where they will say things that are intellectually and educationally and factually solid, and in reality and common sense completely fucking wrong. And I decided that we needed some voices like me and you and Green to get on there and say, you know what, I work for a fucking living, and you know, I happen to have been.
Have you tried to get to?
I will talk about that on my other podcast.
I happen to have been a police officer and also been stopped by police officers for no other reason than the color of my skin and the way I was behaving. And I can tell you that, you know, your abhorrence of identity politics is intellectually and logically right, but in a realistic way, it's not 100% right. It's actually wrong. So,
I think like for me, what I get frustrated with isn't identity politics; it's identity politics with politicians. Because, for example,
we'll accept that.
For example, like I have, I've often had this argument with my white cohorts about Black Lives Matter. For example, you know, while they, you know, they hate it, you know, I'm like, well, if you don't like Black Lives Matter, maybe 50 years ago you should have thought about, you know, maybe fixing the problems, and then it wouldn't come up.
Maybe we should have had Jim Crow.
So, like, you know, it's not like, you know, this is the result of, you know, decades and a couple centuries of
this wasn't an overnight like,
holy
shit, what's happening?
The thing that people miss, especially when I hear I didn't own any slaves and I didn't do anything to you, it doesn't matter. It was like 40 years ago. That's one generation. It was so in the
my dad knew what Jim Crow laws were like.
In the span of human existence, it was your fucking dad. It was your fucking grandfather. And you know,
in fact, to be honest with you, one level of privilege is the fact that I've never in my life heard my father utter, you know, a racial slur or say anything disparaging ethnicities ever of any kind. As a matter of fact, that kind of stuff really upset him. You get very frustrated when you hear people talk like that. You know, in fact, he was to say he's a 7-year-old man, and I've never even heard my dad use like a 4-letter word.
That's wonderful.
That's beautiful.
And his reason wasn't moral. He always said, he's like, when you curse like that, you sound stupid.
Yeah. But you know, I don't care what your reason for morality
I was like,
is.
fuck you, Dad.
I don't care what your reason for morality is. And
off, old man.
That's funny to say as an atheist,
Right.
but if you draw your morality from religion, because you've seen those atheist memes where it's like, if you need religion to be moral, you're, maybe there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
It doesn't. I don't care where you draw your morality from. If you have it, if you treat people with respect,
Sure.
when you treat people good, maybe you might deep in your brain be like, yeah, black people are no way near as smart as white people, and of course that's prejudiced and racist and wrong. But if you still treat those people with respect, if you still treat them in a manner that's moral, I don't care where you got it.
Well, even the construct of intellect, for example, is really tricky anyway. Because
Construct of intellect.
like,
You are a philosophy major. God damn it. I love it.
I'm better than cheating, but
Oh, you're all right.
because I'm not a moral philosopher.
Chidi,
like everybody
Chidi,
hates.
you're referencing The Good Place. Yes, I dig that.
I didn't think I was going to like it because I kept hearing people reference the show every time I was.
Oh no, it's actually a brilliant. It's
right,
a
and I started watching it. I was like,
show. Anything
holy
with Ted
shit, this is a
Danson.
good show.
Anything with Ted Danson is
Right.
incredible. Let me tell you guys about a social experiment I've been doing. Let's see, what year is this? 2019. I've been doing it since
It's
2017.
1847, by the way.
I could only hope that was actually true.
No, that's not
We're headed into the Civil War.
I don't want to go back to 19.
Right.
No.
Using our current.
Lincoln is just a senator at this point.
No, I don't want to fucking go back there.
You guys are really messing with me because I am a Time Lord and this stuff.
Because then I am the house
in.
end.
Moving on. So what I've done is I have the registration for my car.
Right.
I keep my car registered every 2 years. I decided to because when my registration was up in 2017, there was a lot of this inflammatory, a lot of racially charged stuff going on the internet, on social media, and I decided to pull my own experiment, which I am actually still pulling right now.
SB 1070.
Yeah. No. I have not put the modern. I have my registration tags in my middle bit console, but I have not put them on my license plate.
Right. Right.
I've had cops behind me downtown.
And you've never been stopped.
I've never been stopped. My registration is now over a year expired.
Yeah, and all you have to do is watch live PD or ask a guy like me who used to do it for a living, and that's what we used to do. It's like, okay, I could easily run this tag on the radio, or they've got the computers in the cars now. I could run it in the car and find out whether it's registered or not, and he forgot to put the sticker on.
I'm a clean.
Or I could pull this guy over because I've got a traffic violation.
Exactly.
And dig.
Exactly.
And that's what we do. And unfortunately, we would often do it more with people of color than we would with white people.
Well, that's obvious.
That's what I'm going for, is because I paid in 2017 my 2-year registration for my tag, which you're able to do in Arizona, and I haven't put it on my plate yet because I want to see if I get pulled over.
But I'm going to give you a piece of advice. Don't do the 2-year registration anymore.
Okay.
Because what if you wreck that car?
Thanks, Dad. That's exactly what he told me too.
I guarantee you the state of Arizona is not going to send you the money back for
No, of course not.
The year of car.
I drive an 04 Corolla. You're talking about like $15.
Now, I'm going to throw one small monkey wrench because as a skeptic, this is what you do, and this is me speaking from my intellectual privilege of the vacuum of not actually being the problem.
Perfect place to talk from.
Well, it's just like
What a pulpit.
Well, for example, like my expertise on black culture comes from growing up in North Dakota, and so in the same way that my expertise in female reproductive processes
Comes from
derived
fucking
the fact that
women.
I have male genitals.
And you fucking women.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
So you fucked a woman
so listen,
one time and you have a kid.
Right. I put my finger in there once. Now I know everything.
Right. I've been under the hood. I fucking know how to fix a car.
Right. My dad is a TV
School of hard thoughts.
I can barely open the latch on the fucking hood of a car,
here's the
which
thing.
my wife hates.
What you'd have to do for this particular experiment to be valid is for both you and Adrian to drive the exact same car.
Yeah.
And then see the frequency of who gets pulled over. Now that's just me.
That's
as a-
true.
And
That's
and
true.
I'm not-
That's a very distinct.
No,
And
variable
I'm not
that I-
participating
Because
in
then
that.
you have a control. I'm the control variable. Then that would make me
Right.
just driving autonomously in my
Right.
car with expired tags as a Celtic fucking
Well,
shuckamuck.
The control
That's the
variable
control
would be
variable.
the 04 Corolla with current tags.
Right, which
Then-
I've had for many years.
And then you have your car with you in it without current tags, and him in your car without current tags.
So what we
So you just
need
pull up.
is our
Which
School
I'm
of
not
Hard
doing
Thoughts.
because I have a nicer car than him.
Right.
First of
We
all,
need-
and second of
Not
all,
today,
I've been on the other end of that, and quite
Right.
frankly, even though it's unlikely to happen,
No,
it could be fatal for me.
if you were driving-
I'm never going to participate in an
That's
experiment.
the thing. I'm driving an incognito
that
car.
could get me killed.
If you're driving like a 2017 red Camaro,
Oh, absolutely. If
Bitchin'
I'm,
Camaro, bitchin' Camaro.
right,
if I'm driving a car that
with a detachable penis, the cops would indeed pull you over.
man, I also
Because your
enjoyed
race
the
would have
grunge
no
phase.
matter. They'd be like, I fucking hate that guy because he has that car.
Right.
Oh, and if since you're mentioning the fact you're a Time Lord, I'm actually a druid, and I live my life in reverse.
Yes, I know. That's why we've met on a few occasions.
Right.
But
I
you
started
don't
in the
remember.
future, and I'm living my way through
You
the
don't
past.
remember.
Right.
Benjamin Button. So,
It's been a really fun
yeah,
podcast.
this has been
been a lot
awesome.
of fun.
And,
By the way,
and
there's a sword and a rock out there. I want you to get it.
Yeah.
I hope we can do this again.
Just because some watery soft lot is
Some moistened bink.
I'm sorry, Adrian.
That's okay. We're gonna.
All right.
Thank
Thanks
you.
a lot.
We had the local.
In the immortal words of Arnold Schwarzenegger, "Fuck you."
Right?
Okay. But so we want to wrap. I want to wrap this up, but
Yeah.
let everybody know how they can find your business. So
Yes.
they can pay
Yes,
some-
please, please.
Oh yeah, please, yeah, because
Plug,
You do it.
I
Go
barely
for it.
made my mortgage payment this month.
You do it. Talk about what you do.
Okay.
Where can we
Well,
find
let
your
him.
Where can we find your amazing crafts?
So go on Instagram,
Ow.
and I have two different Instagram pages. The first one is @Upside Down Aaron, and the other one, my main actual business Instagram page is @Rustic Ridge AZ. And otherwise, you can email me at Rustic Ridge Design Company. I think actually, you know what? It's probably wrong. I gotta look at the fucking email address because I never remember this part.
Well, Rustic Ridge.
But it's Rustic Ridge Design, Arizona is where
I
it's
mean-
at. And here's my one.
I mean, Google is a very massively effective.
Here we go. Now I know my own email address. Rustic Ridge Design Co.
Give me your business card.
gmail.com.
Let a professional do
And
this.
there it is.
Good Lord. So our buddy Aaron Haworth with no Y,
Yeah.
because why not?
Right.
Hey, you can get a hold of him at Rustic Ridge. Rustic Ridge Design Co. at gmail.com.
Right.
And you know what I'm
I
gonna
also
do?
sit on the town law commission.
Oh, really?
President of the nonpartisan anti-Chinese League.
So you
Sorry,
can
that was a sheriff.
you can also
Washington,
you can also direct all of your emails to us and or him, and we'll talk about that next time. But we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna blast his stuff on our website because he was so cool coming into us today at School of Hard Thoughts episode 15. Was that, boss? That was episode 14. It feels so good. It feels like 2 episodes. That's why I'm saying 15. But we love you guys. And again, Aaron, thank you for coming on today.
No, Green, thank you very much. I love it.
On behalf of Adrian and Green and Aaron, we thank you for listening to the School of Hard Thoughts podcast. Once again, we want you to share. We want you to like. We want you to subscribe. And if you have anything to say, please give us a contact. If you're an expert at anything, or you just think you are, be a guest, and we'd love to have you on. Have a great day. And don't forget to come on down to Famous Sam's.